First on our agenda tonight is the invocation given by Commissioner Hatley, followed by the flag salute led by Commissioner Baker. Would you please stand?
Bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today to do what's best and morally right for the citizens of Yukon to the best of our ability. And we also ask that you keep your hand over our police and firemen and all our doctors. They help out all the citizens of Yukon and keep them safe. In your heavenly name, amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Hatley,
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
here.
Item 1 is the approval of the minutes of March 14th, 2016 meeting. The commission's had a chance to look these over. Is there any corrections or additions?
Mr. Chair, I recommend approval of the minutes as written.
We have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second. Is there any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Chairman Taylor.
Yes. Item 2 is the visitor section. This is for anyone that would like to address the commission about a non-agenda item. Is there anyone here tonight that wants to talk to us about something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will proceed. Item 3 is to hear a request by Salazar Homes to rezone from A agricultural to R3 multifamily district, a portion of our north part of our southwest quarter, section 16, township 12 north, range 5 west of the Indian Meridian, and this is 405 North Piedmont Road. Mr. Attorney, is that satisfactory?
That is, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Rubbs, your request for a continuance has to be denied because we have to act on this up or down within 60 days of filing, and so we're at our 60-day mark now. Introduce yourself, please, and give your address.
Mark Grubbs, Grubbs Consulting on behalf of the applicant, 1819 South Morgan Road. What you have before you tonight is a PUD, planned unit development, for the rezoning of a portion of property at the location mentioned. Also is an accompanying item is a preliminary plat as required by the City of Yukon to be submitted at the same time. This as we know, that there's a certain portion of the property, I think it's approximately 160 feet, is currently zoned R3, permitting the multifamily use. It's the request of the applicant to expand the use under a planned unit development to further restrict it from just a individual R3 zoning to a portion of this property. Everybody's familiar with this property. There's a large portion of the property that is currently covered by floodplain and floodway. With this property, the floodway would be all maintained within a common area and would not be allowed to permit the construction of any apartments. And what we do, we have done a preliminary engineering study on that area with the development of this to raise this portion up out of the floodplain. We would fill in the floodplain. You're not allowed by FEMA or any other governing authority to fill in the floodway. So you would raise this portion of so that it would be out of the floodplain. You would submit a request to FEMA in the final plat stage. But what we would do is excavate from here to provide what we call for a compensatory storage to allow so that we wouldn't adversely affect the adjacent property owners. We've currently done a preliminary flood study on that. It's currently in the engineer's hands for review. As you can see, even though the whole property is under a PUD, we're not adding a lot of additional space to that additional R3. So I have with me also a couple of renderings that they went to an architect and actually done some renderings on the project to kind of give us, and these were included in your packet, I believe, to kind of show how the property would be laid out and give you an idea of what the buildings would look like. And these were requested by the Johnson Associates, the city planning firm, to be included in the PUD document. We have agreed to, within the PUD, to leave do a landscape buffer on this side, and along the frontage, and also a large landscape buffer over here, which on the east side of the property, where we would not disturb any of the existing mature trees. So if you're familiar with that property, you know that lots of trees back there that would block the view of this from that side. We'd also put a sidewalk throughout the property and add some sort of amenities for the apartments when they're complete. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Have you, what do you propose to do about the traffic, since that is a very dangerous two-lane road on and off the property? Is it just going to have one entrance, two entrances, or what?
Within the PUD, we've allowed for two entrances on that. We've had a traffic study completed on this property, and the traffic study shows that Highway 4 is currently not at capacity and would not, any improvements need to be done to it at this time for this project.
Really? Okay.
The city engineer has reviewed this traffic study and agrees with the findings of the traffic study.
Okay. When you said amenities, I didn't quite understand the, you're going to channel out the area in the back that is not being used by the apartments, is that correct?
Yeah. Essentially, you would dig the dirt out, make that area wider. So it's got a main channel in it. What we would do is dig a bigger hole back there.
Oh, just on the stream part of it.
Yes, in all this area. Back here, we would essentially dig a big hole back here. So what that does is, within this flow area, it provides for more flow within this area to compensate for the fill that you're putting in this area.
Would you take it all the way to the river when you're going to dig that ditch, or what?
No, that's not planned, sir.
Well, if you dig a big hole and water stands in it, then we got mosquitoes
Well,
and stuff like that.
your main channel would still stay at the same elevation. You're just taking the outside of the main channel banks. You're digging that out.
And the apartments themselves, will they have a green area, a play area for kids? You said sidewalks and other amenities. I just didn't know what the other amenities might be.
Well, there is some, there's green space within here, and there's some area over in here that we could put like a little playground and things of that nature.
Is there any water retention in that area at all in the
I've
R3?
actually discussed this with the city engineer. The city engineer and I both agree that detention in this location would be a bad idea because of the way that water tends to stand now. So if you detain it, it's going to cause adverse impact. What we want to do, because, and in order to explain this, I'd have to get into some engineering detail. But you've got an overall time of concentration that it takes for water to get to this area from the whole basin. And then you have this that's really close to this area. The water we don't want to hold back the water that's really close to this area. We want it to clear out fast. So therefore you wouldn't detain it. You want to get it out before the majority of the whole basin reaches this point. So what the city will look at with me is we would look at a fee in lieu of detention. So we'd pay the city a fee instead of doing detention, where they could apply to somewhere else in the city.
Now, you mentioned FEMA. Has this been approved by FEMA, or have you taken it to them?
We have not taken it to them at this point. It's not typical to take it to them until you're in the preliminary plat or the final plat stage. So you go preliminary to get the city's rezoning approval. Then we go and then they look at the preliminary plat. Then when we go into the final plat stage, we would submit the detailed calculations and to FEMA and get their approval. The city would never permit the construction of it if it wasn't permitted by the governing agencies. And you're talking about a major cost expense to the developer to go that much in detail at the early stages.
Commissioners, do you have questions? Commissioner Davis, do you have anything? All right, sir. At this time, I'm assuming the folks here have some comments they'd like to make. Is there anyone here that's a spokesman for the group, or have you organized a committee or anything to speak to us?
Larry, I'd like to address the council, please. But no, we have not.
Okay.
I'm Ted Walker. I live on Ellison Street,
Give the address, Ted.
305 Ellison,
Okay.
in Yukon for many, many years.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, gentlemen of the, I'm not an engineer, don't pretend to be, but I can tell you this, anytime you block water, it backs up. And I've seen it back all the way to Ellison Street up in the backyard of those. Well, we'll look at, just for an example, let's look what they did at Wagner Road. They went out there and dug a hole to catch water, and when that monsoon rain come, they can't even come to Highway 4. They have to go the other way. I, for one, would not like to see this happen for my property and these other people's property too. So, thank you for allowing me to address, and that's my opinion.
Thank you, sir. Someone else would like to address? Yes, sir.
I'm David McDonald. I live 700 North Piedmont Road, which is directly across the street.
Across the street, okay.
I lived in Bethany for 30 years, had a very nice home. They built apartments across the street from me. After about 5 to 10 years, they got so run down, wasn't kept up, that the value of my property dropped almost 50% when I had to sell my house. I bought this place out here in Yukon. I've got 3 acres of ground, and if they come in there and start building stuff like that, everything will be nice and pretty. For how long? 5 years, 10 years? When they sell it to somebody else from some other state that doesn't even live in Oklahoma, and then turn around and they let it run down. Plus the damage you're going to have from the water flow. I know they haven't done their studies on the water. They haven't checked with the county, because that's one of the processes. They have to get the permits from the county before they can even break ground, whether they got a permit or not. FEMA twice has requested me to buy insurance for flood. I've had to prove to them, because my ground is up higher, that I don't have to have it. But they're gonna have to build up a long ways over there. And when they do that, the people that live across back in there on the east side of it, they're gonna get flooded. Not a little bit, they're gonna get big flood. And they're gonna have to buy that insurance, and it ain't cheap.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff Bratcher, 500 Oak Creek Drive. Regarding the city engineer, I've lived in this house for years now. Been dealing with floods, as you're aware, the drainage ditch next to my house. I actually have spoke to Robbie Williams with the, I believe it's Triad Design. The pitch is not there for that runoff. So if they build this up, my house is just going to crumble with the runoff from on Oak Creek Drive. Okay, it's going to flood back, and it's going to flood from the front. Okay, he's actually told me specifically, as well as Mr. Adams, the pitch is not there for this runoff. Okay, I had a squeegee out my garage last night. Okay, so if they build this up, it's going to come back. I'm going to get it from both sides. So as chairman, we don't want this, period, at all. You know, if you can imagine midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning out there with the squeegeeing out your garage, not to mention the little ditch that they dug that they don't maintain back there, and all the debris and trash, and, you know, so we're getting them both ways. So I don't believe this is, you know, good for the city, nor for the residents that live back up to that field. You know, not even a detention pond, whatever you want to call it. So I'd like to just make note of that, you know, I have spoke with the city engineer on that, and the pitch from the drainage ditch to the, you know, what do they call it, Turtle Creek, the creek back behind there, the pitch ain't there. Otherwise, we would have solved my problem with the drainage, widen that drainage ditch.
Right.
So with that, I'd like,
Thank you, sir.
Sir, what was your name?
Jeff Bratcher, Bratcher.
Hi, my name is Heather Bratcher, 500 Oak Creek Drive. I've got a few questions. Of course, I know you're talking about building it up, and we're all concerned about if you build it up, it's got to go somewhere. Water doesn't just stop. And it already backs up into our backyard without anything being built up. If it gets built up, it's just going to keep coming up farther and farther and eventually be into the house. And I do have a question about the entrances. You said there were going to be 2 entrances. I'd like to know where those entrances are planning to be. Are they both going to be on Highway 4? Because we do not, I, as a resident of Branchwood North, do not want any entrances going into our neighborhood, whether it be walking trails, traffic, or anything. We don't, I'm sure no one else from the resident wants any traffic.
I believe the design showed 2 entrances onto Highway 4.
Okay.
Is that correct, sir?
Is it going to stay that way? Okay. 'Cause I know that Mark opens up into that field. I just don't want to see that eventually be an entrance going into the complex. Let's see. And of course, property value. I don't know how many people are going to be in this dwelling, but I know the schools are already at their maximum capacity. That's another thing to consider. And the drainage and, okay, I think I've covered all my points, but I would like to not see it go in.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is James Choate. I live at 403 Oak Creek Drive. Sorry, I'm not good with names, but he talked about the developer not having to pay these expenses for these studies, like through FEMA. These engineering studies I hear, they're in the preliminary stages or not complete or some form. I would ask that this commission require those studies to be done before they take any action on rezoning this. Because like everybody else in this room, I believe it will cause the long-term residents of the North Branchwood Housing Addition to wind up with flood damage in their homes eventually. Because when you raise land like that and then you put paved roads in it buildings, the water's going somewhere, and it's obviously not gonna go into the storm system for the city to take care of it. It's gonna run back to that creek. Well, that creek already fills up and floods that land out in that way and comes up in some of these people's yards. I used to live Newmeyer Mobile Home Park, and I lived on the west side of the park. And the residents that lived around me talked about the creek there, and they'd been there for years, and they'd never seen the water come up in the yard on the west side, back of their homes, more than an inch or two. After the city allowed, I believe Salazar has the corner there at Piedmont Road and Highway 66, raised that elevation up to put a temporary road plan or whatever it was in there. After that was done, every time there was a heavy rain that far from water going into my mobile home, and my mobile home on the back side set 4.5 feet off the ground. Put the apartment complex in, you're gonna do this to these people who live along that west side. These people are long-term residents of Yukon. They're talking about a place for temporary residents, not permanent residents. And I would ask that the commission keep that in mind. And I would also like to see these studies completed and done before any action is taken for approval on this issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. Someone else have something different? Yes, sir. Maybe we ought to listen to her.
Probably makes as much sense. My name is Steve Prodel. I live at 302 Ellison. I live on the west side of Ellison. I back up to Turtle Creek. I'm about 2 lots south of the southeast corner of this property. My concern, and I voiced this last meeting, and he says they don't want to go in and dig a retention or detention pond or whatever else, but they're going to go just back behind there and take all that dirt out of there and create a huge whirlpool. Because that water's going to come in, hit that big open area, swirl, and it's just going to sit there. On my way in this evening, I came down Wagner Road. Actually, I came in off of Foreman, over the bridge on 11th Street, down Wagner, and up Piedmont Road. No more rain than we had last night. There was already standing water in those fields out there. It's got no place to go. It doesn't drain. And like I said last month, if they come in there and raise this up, effectively building a dam, that water's got no place to go. It has to go around to the east side where all the residents are, in the channel of the creek. And it's just, you know, we've been in our house for 30-something years now. And I bought that place because I had that open view all the way back out across, all the way over to the river. I don't want to see a 2-story apartment complex. And like it was mentioned before, you know, who knows in 5 years, 10 years, what it's going to be like. I don't want to look at dirty laundry hanging off the back porches, you know, beach towels from the pool, if there is one, whatever. We've already got 3 apartment complexes within half a mile of us right there now, up on the hill there. You know, I don't believe it's needed.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, sir.
I'm Jerry Hansons. I live at 200 North Ranchwood Boulevard. My mom and dad have passed on now, but they had a house at 124 Ranchwood. This man right over here now lives in that house. They get water in the backyard and have for a long time, but it gradually just keeps moving farther and farther up the hill into that area. And I've seen mom and dad have to clean the water out of the garage many, many times already. If they gain another inch or so, it's going to be in the house. If you build a detention, all it's gonna do is gonna save the first amount of rainwater that runs off of that property. If they would have to take that all the way to the river and clear the river all the way to the dam so that it could go over the dam before it will keep any flooding from happening in that area. And if you restrict the width of that, it's going to back up anyway because you've created a dam. It's just, there's no place for it to go. Branchwood School, when we first moved into that area, there was first through sixth grades. It's now down to first through the second or first through the third. I think it's third, but I'm not positive. Just simply because there's so many children in that area that they have had to change them out of that school. And that was a very good school to begin with. My children went there.
Still is.
Mhm.
It's still an excellent.
It's a shame that they can't go through the first six grades there. And I guess that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Someone else? Yes, ma'am?
Hi,
Hello?
Rebecca Hicks, 406 Annawood Drive.
Okay.
I asked in the last meeting that I knew of an ordinance here in Yukon. I have not found it, that there already applies to apartment complexes in the city of Yukon. And I knew it was so many complexes per acre or per mile. And I kind of got a like of this. I got a circle. Did anybody find out if
Well,
these-
it's a density. We have restricted the density so that it can't be triple decked apartments because of too many people and too much density within the designated area. I used to know the ordinance because I helped write it, but I don't remember the exact, but there is a density requirement that cannot be overdone. The number
So
of,
this does meet that ordinance.
9 per acre.
9 per acre.
So 9 complexes per acre,
9 buildings,
9 buildings. Okay,
9 units.
90. It says 90.
Okay.
Okay, and I just thought I'd bring this to your attention too. This is right outside of Yukon in Oklahoma City. I happened to have a friend come over the other day who was complaining about his property eroding away because a builder had came in across the river and built it up and then left it, and now his property is eroding away, and the builder is nowhere to be found. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention
ma'am.
also.
Thanks.
Okay, let's have one or two others. We get,
My name is Dwight Langstrad. I live at 305 Piedmont Road. This property that they're talking about is just to the north of me. And whether you realize it or not, all that property from Highway 4 clear back to Ranchwood is in a wave. In other words, there's high spots, low spots all the way across there. Right below my house is one of the lowest spots. It'll get 3 foot deep there. Now, he said it won't do more than just add little adverse effect to the people. What does he call adverse? I guess it's all who's getting adverse. What it really amounts to is this. They also wanting to take and widen Highway 4. We know that, don't you? That all comes off of the east side of the road. All of it across this particular property. The Salzar's property, my property. This is going to take off about 60 foot there. Now other words, just bringing it right down within about 20 foot of my front door. The curb line was. Okay, that's gonna decrease their property too, to do that. Now they talk about a holding tank back there. All that's gonna do is fill up. You go back there, watch that ditch go, when it's flooding down through there, it is as red, and the trash coming down through there is unreal. Now, where's that going to go if you got a holding pond? It's going to stay right there. And as long as that there bottleneck there behind the substation, it stays that way, you're going to have a big problem. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Norman Blackley, and I live at 501 Mark Avenue, Yukon here. And what I want to do is I want to find out where we're talking about. Is it at the intersection of 66 and Piedmont Road, or is it north of there?
405 North Piedmont Road, it would be north of the 66. It's on the other side of Mr. Learstein.
I tried very hard to go ahead and look at the picture on that television, and I couldn't see it. Could I look at that for a moment, please?
Can you allow someone else to speak while you're looking at that, please? Is someone else that'd like to speak while he's looking at this?
2 cents worth in here. You say go ahead and speak?
Yes, sir.
Alan Bratcher, 307 Linda Lane. I'm very much opposed to this, as a majority or all of these people in here, for all the reasons they've stated. Ranchwood addition, as you all know, all that water, when we do have these big rains, you know, it runs to the west, to the big creek. Where I live, Mr. Wright's property, I've seen it look, you know, the pasture, it looks like a lake out there sometime, because, you know, even as wide as the channel is going to the river, it doesn't feed it enough. Even with this being built up out of the flood zone, you know, it's nowhere. You got this going here, you got this meeting it, you know. And as the gentleman brought up last week, now I know you said it was Oklahoma City property where they're building a new shopping area south of I-40. Now where is that runoff going? Through Mulvey's, through the channel, and through down to the river? And comes right on down, so you're talking, you know, more excess water. So,
all right.
I just wanted to say, you know, I'm very much opposed to it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bob Bradway, 521 Mark Avenue, Mr. Chairman. I think in summary, without repeating what anybody else has said here, I would ask that the Planning Commission call a vote and deny the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If there's no further comments. Yes, sir. Sure. Go right ahead.
Mark Grubbs again with Grubbs Consulting. I've kind of made a list of the comments that were made, and I'll just try to go down through them real quickly. As far as the people have stated on a couple of occasions about the maintenance of the facility, one of the requirements of the city staff and planning was that we put a perpetual maintenance agreement within the PUD that would run with the property, so at all times that this property would have to be maintained. And that would include your picking up trash out of your common area, things of that nature, landscaping, building maintenance. The location of entrances, we determined those would be both on the west side onto Highway 4. The city would be responsible and associated with the street widening, not Salazar. We've addressed that within the PUD. As far as the 90 dwelling units would be 9 units per acre. The engineering studies timing, the engineering studies have to be completed by us, and they have to be approved, again, by your city engineer and by FEMA. There would be no building permits ever issued if these were not approved by these governing agencies. To ask for the client to spend that amount of money without ever knowing if he would have even the opportunity to get the rezoning would be unreasonable. Because they would spend all that money and then have to come back and possibly still get denied or approved. But the development, we're not proposing detention. I want to reiterate that. We're not trying to slow the water down any more than it already is. What we're providing is compensatory storage. So you raise one part up, you dig the other out, so you don't raise the water surface elevation. You don't want to push in on the dirt and not give that extra water a place to go. And then, the residents here are the people that are in close proximity to us. In drainage theory, the closer you are, then that's going to be the first water to release off the site and clear the site. Most drainage impact comes from upstream, and when you get more development upstream, and then all that water joins at one time downstream, and that's where your adverse impact happens. So in summary, Mr. Salazar is a longtime businessman in Yukon and plans to stay here. So it's not in his interest of developing something that would adversely impact the city of Yukon. And in closing, we all have houses. Development happens over time, even though I've never done a rezoning case, and there not being anybody there that's not been against it. Most people don't like to see development in close proximity to their house when they think they moved outside of the city limits. But the city of Yukon is growing, will continue to grow, and as much as people don't want to see development happen, it continues to happen to support the community. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. We would just ask for your approval.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, if you'd like to have something, would you step forward and ask a question or address the council or the commission?
Larry Wingo, live at 610 Oak Creek Drive for 26 years. What's the ratio for parking per unit? You're going to have...
We have 1.5 spaces for your efficiency and 1 bedrooms and 2 spaces for your...
So what's your net parking for your development?
Don't have that on top of my head, sir.
Okay. So
It's preliminary layout.
at the most, you're proposing less than 2 units, 2 parking spaces per unit.
On your 1 bedrooms, you would have the 1.5.
If you got 90 units,
Right.
you're going to have less than 180 parking spaces.
That's right, but some would be 1 bedroom.
Where are they going to park? They're going to be parking in that field out there north, just where the city owns.
We meet your current city code.
Mr.
Well,
Richter.
I'm just telling you where
Sir.
they're going to park,
Sir, you made your point.
Okay. And the other thing is that intersection there where they're going to be coming and going ingress egress is Right now, if it stays a 2-lane highway, somebody's gonna get killed. And first thing they're gonna do is they're gonna be down there wanting some emergency permit to open up Mark and run a street into Mark and dump all their traffic into our subdivision. So, last night when it rained, I went out there at 12 o'clock, 12:30. That ditch was full of water, and we didn't get but about an inch of rain last night.
Correct.
You get a 2 or 3 inch rain, they're gonna go underwater down there like you won't believe. And they put that drain in from that new development north there today. I saw it. The storm drain, they're putting it in right now to Mulvish Pond. So, you know, I'm against this, and I know everybody else is, so that's just what I think about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody being here and coming back a second time, expressing your opinions. We have a duty here to vote what we, not the political side of it, but the practical side, what the gentleman has proposed for us with Yukon ordinances and how it will affect us. So with that being said, is there any more questions from the commission? If not, does someone have a motion they'd like to read?
I do. I'll read it.
All right.
In the case of the application for the rezoning submitted by Grubbs Consulting LLC on behalf of Salazar Homes Incorporated, due to past flooding in the area and a likelihood that this project would increase flooding in the general area, I move this application for rezoning be denied and submitted to the City Council with a do not pass recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
So a vote of yes is a vote to
Deny.
deny.
A vote of yes is a vote to deny the application
For the rezoning.
for the rezoning. Call a roll, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Chairman Taylor.
Yes. Now, they can take their application to the city council, and you folks would be notified when the city council meets. And because we did not rezone, Mr. Attorney, there's no reason to proceed with the application.
I can't see a reason to, but since it's on the agenda, I probably would read the item and vote it up or down.
Okay.
I hate to cause extra work, but I think we need action on them, even though, because
Okay.
of the rezoning.
Item 4 is to hear a request by Salazar Homes, Inc. for a planned unit development in the southwest quarter of Section 16, Township 12, Range 5 West, Indian Meridian, better known as 405 Piedmont Road. Since we've heard testimony and had comments from the folks here in the council chambers with us, is there, can you read that denial again with a planned unit development in there instead of the rezoning?
Let me get to that real quick here. In the case of the application for the planned unit development submitted by Grubbs Consulting LLC on behalf of Salazar Homes Incorporated, due to the past flooding in the area and the likelihood that this project would increase flooding in the general area, I move that this application for the POD be denied and submitted to the City Council with a do not pass recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call a roll, please.
Chairman Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker.
Yes.
Item 5 is to hear a request by Salazar Homes for a preliminary plat as a part of the Southwest Quarter, Section 16, Township 12 north of Range 5 west of the Indian Meridian, which address is 405 North Piedmont Road. So, again, it's the same thing. I'm assuming the applicant has no further comments. Commissioner?
All right. In the case, the application for the preliminary plat submitted by Grubbs Consulting LLC on behalf of Salazar Homes Incorporated, due to the past flooding in the area and the likelihood that this project would increase flooding in the general area, I move that this application for the preliminary plat be denied and submitted to the City Council with a do not pass recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baker?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatley?
Yes.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen, and Mr. Salazar, you are a very valuable member of our community. This is just, in the opinion of the folks, it's not the right time or place for that piece of development. We thank all of you for being here and expressing your opinions and for being respectful for one another and allowing everybody to speak. Unlike some of the government functions and big time, city work does work. People have a say, and we thank you for your opinion. Now, let me finish the meeting here. Any new business?
No, Mr. Chairman, no new business.
Mr. Attorney, do you have anything?
Nothing, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any of the commissioners have anything on open discussion?
No.
Seeing none, we will adjourn until our next meeting, May the 9th. Meeting adjourned.